love the way you guys suck down caffeine and then go to a hypnosis seminar. Thinking every moment you guys are. So are there any other questions before I knock your ass unconscious?
What's been happening for the last 3 days?
That's part of what this class is about. It's the deal I made. I said I got to do it and I didn't have to fucking explain it. Right? They promised me I wouldn't have to explain it, so if you have any questions, ask Shelley. And I said, I spend too much fucking time explaining things to people, right? And every time I explain it to them, they always go, oh, because it's always easier than what they were thinking about. You know, I'm a real simple guy. Everything I do is really straightforward. That's why nobody can see it. It's the elusive obvious, you know.
Just one other thing. How sure do you think you're going to get the phobia cure? Because it went from being like 10, 15 minutes with the, you know, see yourself in a cinema, see yourself down there, to being like...
That takes too fucking long. Well, it's the difference between, see, I mean, the phobia cure is really a piece of neuro-linguistic programming. I elicited the strategies of over 100 people that had phobias, didn't have them anymore, but had gotten rid of them, and asked, what did you do? And I found out there were things in common between all of them. So I condensed it down, cleaned it up, and found a way of working with phobias that was much faster than anything that anybody else knew. The only technique they had at the time was desensitization, which took about 6 months and really only got people so that they could do it anyway. But they would ask them, they go, so you flew here? Because a person told me that they had been part of, you'll love this, the Phobia Institute, which is a member of the National Phobia Society. Sounds like they're proliferating phobias, and that they'd been in desensitization for 6 months, and their phobia planes, and they love the way they said it on the phone, it's pretty much taken care of. And they can get on a plane now. It's not very comfortable, but they can do it. Before, they couldn't even get to the airport. And I said, well, cool. I said, so you're going to fly out here and have me work with your flying phobia? And they said, well, yes. They said, I'd like to be able to get to be a little more comfortable. And I said, really? I said, I'd like it if you were more comfortable, too. And so I did, you'll like this. I ran them through the one that's in Frogs into Princes. I asked them, I said, have you read Frogs into Princes? And they said, no. And I said, do you have a copy of it? And they said, yes. I said, it works better if you open it and read the words. And so I told them what page to look on, and I said, but let me just explain something. I said, because when you come out here, let me explain what I'm going to do. I'm going to really just have you make a picture of yourself being afraid in a plane. Can you see what I'm saying? And they went, yeah. And I said, and then I'm going to have you float up. So you're looking down, seeing yourself afraid in a movie screen, you know, in a plane. So on the screen, you're afraid. There you're watching with interest. And up here, you're watching thinking, what a fucking idiot to be afraid in a plane. Once you're in it, there's nothing you can fucking do about it anyway. Just don't eat the food. And if the stewardess comes near you, growl. Because they try to wake you up all the time. Excuse me, sir, do you fall asleep? I hate that. I always look at that and I go, no, I was trying to die. And I always look, I go, if you come by and wake me up suddenly, I have a tendency to strike people who wake me, so please be very careful, because I wouldn't want to break that pretty nose of yours. And they always do this, and they go, okay, sir, I'll be careful. And I said, you better tell the others as well, because when I go to sleep, I want to stay there. And I can't be responsible for my behavior when wakened. But anyway, I just went through the whole phobia thing with this woman, and she got on the plane, and she flew out. She came to my office, and I said, so how's it going? And she said, well, she said, this is going to sound strange, but I didn't have any fear the whole trip out here. And I said, I know. And she said, you know? And I said, yeah. I said, I did it over the phone. And she went, you did it over the phone, then why did I have to come here? And I said, well, I wanted to test my work. Plus, I thought it would be nice if you gave me a check. She said, what did you do over the phone? But anyway, it really, you know, it was 15 fucking minutes to do something. Way, man, that's, you know, how many clients can you do then? You know, how many 15 minutes there are? There's only 4 of them in an hour, you know. I was just dissatisfied with that shit. Plus, I really wanted to humiliate neurolinguistic programmers that thought they knew everything. You know, because they keep thinking, what could possibly be faster than the phobia cure? I know. And that really comes from applied neurohypnotic repatterning. That hypnotic repatterning is, or as they like to call it, NHR. Why do they always have to initialize everything? You know, I like saying neurohypnotic repatterning. You know, that's why I make up these things, because they come trippingly off the tongue. People hated the word neuro-linguistic programming when I made it up. They said, can't you come up with something simpler? You know, something, you know, that really tells you what it means? And I said, like id and ego. Superego. Pre-conscious. Psychologists make up the funniest words. Schizophrenia. That's a fun word to say. I love that. You know, schizophrenia. Sounds like you're about to have fun, doesn't it? But yeah, so your question is, am I going to be able to do it faster? You bet. Pretty soon I'm just going to be able to look at people and something will happen. How about that? I'm making those little darts. I saw a cartoon and the guy had darts that came out of his eyes. He was a hypnotist. They had hypnosis in this cartoon, and the guy looked like this, and little darts came out. And I'm going to take those little darts, right, and pretty soon I'm going to be able to load what I want in the dart, and I'll just go, that'll be all there is to it. Weird thing is you can feel it, huh? Makes me feel strange. How do you think I feel? I'm walking in the supermarket, and I look at people like this, and they go, and then, of course, I end up negotiating for things for myself, and I almost feel that it's unfair, you know, almost. Like recently, I was in San Bernardino, and I didn't want to rent a car because I was going to be there for like 2 months. I thought, that's stupid. I said, I'll just go out and buy a used car rather than giving Hertz all this money. I said, we could use one at the office, you know, they could run errands in it. And I was driving along, and I saw this little car that looked like it was out of the Jetsons. You know, it really kind of did look like one of those things the Jetsons drove around. And so I went inside, and I said to the guy, I said, I want to drive that car out there. And the guy said, well, that's okay. And he said, I'll take you for a test drive. I said, I don't need you. I want to drive myself. I said, I'll leave you my car. It actually was a rent-a-car. And I paid that $6, so I could do any fucking thing I wanted to do it. And the guy said, all you have to have is a valid driver's license, because I'd be covered by our insurance. And I went, cool. So I showed him my driver's license, and I drove away. And I drove around, and my wife was going, boy, this car's nice. I really like this car. It had a great stereo in it. Whoever owned this car was a fucking anal retentive, like you wouldn't believe. I opened it, and there wasn't a mark in the ashtray. They didn't even put change in it. Right? I mean, the car was like it was brand new. All there was one line on the back seat where every day they set their briefcase. And on the top of the steering wheel, there was a place where their fingernails touched it, because they drove like an idiot with both hands together on the steering wheel. So it must have been some little old lady. When they bought this car, they put every bell and whistle you could think of. It has a rack on the top. It's got a quadraphonic stereo with 16 speakers in it. You know, it had like plush carpet. It had everything you could possibly think of. So I thought, well, this is pretty nice. So I walked in when I drove back in. Of course, I made my wife crazy because we went and drove someplace, and then I drove back at everything. I drove it at 2 miles an hour, then at 5 miles an hour, then at 10, then at 15, so I could listen, you know. And that's my way of diagnosing things. I can tell everything there is. And I could hear when I drove it exactly 22 miles per hour, there was a little wobble in the wheel. And I thought, that'll get 300 off right there. And actually, that just means the tire's out of alignment. So I walked in and I sat, and here was this nice salesman ready to try and fuck around with me, you know. And he goes, he said, well, how did it drive? I said, pretty good, except at 22 miles per hour. It wobbled. And he went, really? He said, it's probably the wheel alignment. And I said, yes, but it could be the whole drivetrain. So I don't know. Maybe we should look at some other cars. And I went out and I looked at other cars I didn't want. And then I said, well, my wife can't get in this one. It's too big. Oh, this is too small. No place for the wheelchair. And I went, well, I'm sorry. And you could see the disappointment on his face, you know, because nobody had come into this car lot or out of it the whole time I'd been there. In fact, hotel I was staying in, I was the only one in it. San Bernardino was empty that weekend. And so I said, but I sure like that other car. I said, how much was it? I love that line. And they go, he said, well, I'm sure we could cut some kind of a deal. And I said, well, I said, so you're asking 13,000. I said, it seems more like just 9 or 10. And that doesn't even mean anything, does it? I mean, it doesn't have any foundation in anything. It's not even grammatical. I said, 13, it seems like 9 or 10. And then I touched him and I said, can you feel this? Of course he could, because I just touched him. And he went, yes. And I said, okay, you got a deal. I said, I just can't beat you. You're a hard negotiator. He smiled and walked in and he said, I'll draw up the paperwork. And I said, good. And then as he came in, of course, my wife, always looking to try and get something for nothing, sort of thing, she negotiates in department stores. I've never seen anybody that does this. And it freaks the people out. She goes, I like this perfume. I'll give you $40 for it. And the people go, oh, well, ma'am, the price is fixed. I can't really change the price. She'll go, well, who here can? And they'll call down, the buyer or the manager, and the woman come up, what's the problem? She goes, I like this, and I want to pay $40 for it. And usually they'll go, so if I just sell it to you right now, you'll buy it for $40? She go, yeah. And a lot of times they just go, okay, sell it to her for $40. Right? And I'll just go, wow, that's really cool. And then she'll go, and can I have one of those for free? And they always stop mid-stride and they go, just give her what he wants. Get her out of here. And the cars in the front of the lot, sitting out there by the road, had flags mounted on the front of them, like a general's car. Out in the front, they had these plastic things, and so there were 2 flags in the front. And my wife said, we need some of those. And the guy goes, well, those are just for decoration. We take them off. They even took them off the car when I went and drove it. And I said, well, yeah. I said, but if I had those on the car, I would feel like a general. You don't want to make me feel bad, do you? What's the guy going to say? Yes? Stuck there, and he went, oh, no. He says, I'll go in the back and get some. Gave us brand new ones right in the bag. Then he bought me new tires. But I had to drive to the place and get them myself. They just paid for them. I was hoping they'd do it for me, but I was terribly disappointed. So you guys done with your coffee cups? Move them out of the way. You don't want to be wearing them. Smart move. Some people put them on their lap. Bad move. Then you have to walk out of the Grosvenor with a big wet spot on your crotch. They go, how was the seminar? And you go, wow, it was pretty good. And they go, what happened? And you say, well, you ought to come sometime to one. He's got the greatest laugh, doesn't he? You ought to do that more often. What?
I'm learning.
No, I'm just telling you. I don't give a fuck what you want. Your unconscious is on my side now. You think it's going to listen to you? Well, we've gone from suggestion to orders now. You guys tried it your way, and look where the fuck it got you. Your unconscious is now going, okay, Chief, what do we do next? Okay, the information package for the future will now be downloaded. Open the mind and prepare yourself. Because I do have a few suggestions, and plenty of time to give them. It's not wonderful how that works out. Because I was going to end at 5:30, but then I thought, what the hell, I'll stay till 6. So I always love to do that. It's funny. The Christians are so freaky about this stuff. They take it so real, that I always tell them, I go, do you know what this Jewish star means? Because it's so funny. They claim to know everything. They go to Bible study courses, and they don't fucking know anything. I mean, it's like they tell them this story, and listen to some of these stories. Well, you see, the little Lord Jesus was born in a manger. They didn't have money to go into the inn, so they put him in the manger with the cows and the lambs to spend the night. And a star went up in the sky in the north, and the wise men saw it. So they were there the next day. These are fast fucking camels. They must do like 25,000 miles per hour across the desert. And then, we know how you know they're wise men? Because they bought a baby sleeping in straw, just what he needed. Incense. Here, man, must stink out here, have some incense. And little baby Jesus, we'll throw the matches in for free. It's such a wonderful story. I love it. Bible stories are great, especially even the ones that in the Old Testament are totally crazy. I mean, because, if you really read them, that the war between Satan, quote unquote, and God really began as a battle over clothing. And looks, because what happened is that Satan said, Asmodeus went, I am the most beautiful one. Right, and the Lord Jehovah was, you're not as beautiful as I am. Sounded like two guys in the Castro having it out, Meow! Can I offer you a plate of milk? Cat fight all the way. So they have a big battle over these things, and then they start all of the great stories of wisdom, as I call it. To me, like when I look at the Bible, it was a bulky anthology of Hebrew literature helping people to get around in the desert, but not that well. Think about it. Moses led the people of Israel through a desert you can walk across in 3 days if you are crippled. And for 40 years they wandered around in this desert. Now, that means that Moses probably had one leg 4 inches shorter than the other one. Excuse me, but Moses had to be like really one confused guy. He had to have no sense of direction, and this guy's understanding strategy. It's like, goes, we'll get up and we'll walk all day. Wake me about 3 in the afternoon. It's so amazing how the sun goes down so quickly. And he goes, okay, everybody, we're going to go straight ahead. And they'll go, but Moses, what are all these tracks in the sand? And he goes, I don't know, let's follow them. 40 years in the desert. Some people exaggerate, and I think it's a wonderful thing. I think stories can be really good learning experiences, but I have a trouble with some of them. Like the story of Job. I mean, this is one. Here's Job. He's successful. He's worshiping, praying, making offerings, doing all the right things, And Satan goes up and he goes, hey, God. He said, you think that guy loves you? And he goes, oh, he's my most devoted subject. And he goes, well, that's because he has everything. I mean, sure, he's got wealth. He's got a family. He's got children. He's successful. He's healthy. I wonder if he'd believe you if you took those things away. And Jehovah says, I'll show you, right? So he takes away his wealth, ruins him. His animals die. Parts of his family die, right? Pretty soon he breaks out with warts and diseases all over him. And then he goes, God, what am I going to have to do? And he said, and the devil looks at him and he says, he's still got his son. He said, make him kill his son, and if he still loves you, then he's serious. So God comes to Job and he goes, if you sacrifice your son, I'll know you love me. So he takes a knife and he takes out his son and he's holding it over his son, trembling. And God at the last moment goes, okay, I think you'd kill him. I believe you. Right? And the devil goes, well, I guess you were right. Walks away. The moral of this story is, what? I can't fucking figure that out for the life of me. What, that God plays craps with your life? And that's kind of what it's like for Jews. When we say we're the chosen person, a lot of people are envious of that. That is not a good thing to be chosen. That's chosen to be a gambling object. The Jews are always going to go, oh, heck, you people aren't doing well. You don't do exactly what I say. So I'm turning you into slaves and sending you to Egypt. The black people are always saying, oh, we were in bondage in the U.S. I hear 200 years of bondage. And I go, 200 years is like an overnight vacation for Jews, man. We were in bondage for years, making bricks, building fucking pyramids, only so some Egyptian princess could look out and go, no, more to the left, I think. That's what being the chosen people is. Now, on the other hand, you people chose to come here. Nobody forced you to come here. Will you quit squinting at me? You're going to get a headache if you do that. Relax your fucking face. Quit thinking so damn much. You don't know what's going to happen, so don't have to think about it. Right? Just relax. Everything is okay. You'll know when to go into trance because you won't have any question about it. See, if you go floating off on your own thinking about all this stuff, I'm going to reach over and unzip your pants and steal your penis. And by the way, that's very painful, too. Do you guys remember that Bobbit thing, you know? I mean, it just shows you about words magic. Here's this guy whose last name is Bobbit, you know? And his wife gets mad at him for stuff, and so she chops his penis off while he's asleep. And he doesn't wake up. This whole story sounds a little funny if you ask me. She drives away with his penis, right? Because she doesn't want him to be able to get it back. She throws it out into a field, right? Now he wakes up from a sound sleep, right? And notices there's blood all over the sheets. And he goes, oh, she's on her period again, right? And lifts up the sheets and his penis is gone. Now that's gotta hurt. If you can't feel that, you had to have been the lousiest fuck that ever was. So they send him to the hospital, and the hospital says to the people from the emergency thing, they go, where's his penis? We can sew it back on. And they say, well, we didn't see a penis. We looked everywhere, but there was no penis. Whoever cut it off must have taken it with him. So the police go out everywhere and search, trying to find his wife, right? And they finally catch her, you know, because she has license plates that are personalized, so it was pretty easy. And they said, okay, you know, you chopped off his penis. She goes, I confess. And they said, what did you do with it? And she goes, it's around. And they said, you know, if you don't tell us where the penis is, you'll go to jail forever, right? And she finally broke down and told them, it's in a field. It's over there in a field. So this policeman had to go over in the field with his flashlight like this. And finally he finds the penis, but he doesn't want to pick it up, right? And so he goes over, there's a fast food restaurant called Der Wiener Schnitzel. They sell hot dogs in this place, and he gets a long hot dog box, goes over and takes the penis and puts it in the hot dog box and brings it down to the surgeon at the hospital. Now here's the surgeon, he gets the radio report, we have the penis. And they go, set him up for pre-op, and they have him in there and they're gassed out, you know, and the microsurgeons are ready, they have their masks on. And this policeman walks in with a hot dog box. What could these surgeons have thought? We said we wanted him to find the wiener. This isn't what we had in mind. We wanted his wiener, not any wiener. And when they opened up this hot dog box and saw this penis, I'll bet you none of them ever ate at Der Wiener Schnitzel again. That just has to be the way it is. You see, you can look at anything and find the silliness that's in it. I mean, to me, you know, I have trouble with a lot of these stories I hear a lot of times. You know, I listen to what they tell us, and see, I know governments lie, and politicians have to lie. It's like a compulsion with them. They can't tell the truth whether they need to lie or not. Especially American politicians, they're horrible. You know, Bill Clinton, I mean, he didn't even have to lie. He said, you know, this whole thing with Monica Lewinsky, they said, well, is it true? You know, did you fuck her? And he'd go, no, man, I just got a blowjob. Instead of saying, oh, well, blowjobs blowjobs are not sexual behavior. Well, maybe not for him, but I kind of find them that way myself. He goes, because I never had sexual relationship with this woman. Well, if you were getting blowjobs and that's not sex, if you can sell that to your wife, it's no wonder you guys don't get along very well. She's going, well, how could it not be sexual? What, did he wear a wetsuit or something while he was doing it? Obviously not, because he got a stain on his blue dress. See, to me, it's not stupid stories, it's not lies, it's not doing the same thing over and over again. If he goes home and makes all those confusing pictures, right? You know, if you plan your life, you see, if it'll fuck up a lecture, think of what it would do to your whole life. This isn't just about a little thing, this is about everything. This is about finding ways of looking into the future and making pictures of how you want it to be, and then pictures of how to get there, and then collapsing them this way, not 12 different things and collapsing them that way. You want to be able to make things so it has steps to get where you want to go. You always want to ask, is there an easier way? You know, and if you're feeling low self-esteem and if you feel stressed out, you're going the wrong way. You don't need any more information. You should go, this is too fucking hard. And it doesn't mean that where you're going isn't worth going. It means the way you're trying to get there isn't working. Somebody asked me once in a seminar, I'd been interviewed by Psychology Today, and they interviewed John, and then they wrote it as if we were together at the same time. And in the article it said, Richard Bandler claims that people can walk through walls. Now what John actually said to the guy, because I know John, and he actually said if somebody could walk through, you know, cement walls, we could model it and figure out how they did it and make it so other human beings do. i.e., one human being can do things, other human beings can do it. If you learn the strategy that somebody has for learning an instrument and they're really good at it, then the odds of your learning to play that instrument are highly increased. So I get this guy who reads this article, comes into the fucking seminar, right? Sits there with this look on his face. And then he raises his hand and he goes, well, I read this magazine and it says that you say that people can walk through walls. And I said, easily. And he went, what? I said, easily. I said, you want to learn how to do it? The guy went, yeah. So I had him come up and I had him stand right in front of the wall. Nice solid one though, no sheetrock, it was cement. And I put my hand behind his head and I said, now close your eyes and visualize, and it has to be this color, it has to be blue, azure blue, and I want you to see that sign opening up until it's wide enough that you could step through it, and then jump. I said, are you ready? And he went, yeah, and I went, bam, and I hit his head against the concrete. And he went like that, and I said, wait a minute, you didn't make it big enough. Now after 3 or 4 of these, he was kind of looking like this. So I took him back and I said, if you want to walk through walls, use one of these fucking things. It's called a door. And I opened the door and I pushed him out. And I stuck a broom handle in the door and I went back and taught my seminar. Every once in a while we heard a knocking on the door. Can I come in now? And I said, no, not yet. Go out and think about what you did. Because if what you do is causing you pain, it must be stupid. The fact that this guy was willing to do this over and over and over again, well, he better think about his life, because I was smacking his head against concrete, for heaven's sakes. Kind of a metaphor thing, you know? So if you do it, not just in one thing, but in all things, it's just not the most efficient. If you want your life to be happier, you got to start by being happy. And then as you do things to figure out what you're going to do, if you start to stop being happy, you're headed in the wrong way. If you want more joy in your life, you have to feel joyful. Then think of what you're going to do, because a lot of people have this fucking backwards. They think what you do is you go out and certain things happen and then you feel joy. That's not the fucking way it works. If you can't generate the feeling, then the world isn't going to make you feel that way. You have to be able to feel joy and to feel it deep and wonderfully. So the more you can build that in and make it a reflex, the more things in the world will make you feel joyous. One of the reasons I enjoy my work, it's not like I haven't heard these kind of stories before, by the way, but I still love them. I'm more amused than anybody. People tell me about it and I go, Jesus, fuck, I'm glad I'm not this guy. You know, I said, it's so fucking complicated. You did what? See, I like stories like hers. She cured herself of something, and she was in a wheelchair for 2 years, and they told her things like, you'll never walk again. And, you know, and she fought her way back, and she did it step by step, and she made it so that, you know, she feels good, and, you know, and suddenly all these barriers break down. So somebody says, well, now what are you gonna do? And she hadn't thought about that. She was just thinking about getting better, right? And so suddenly she went, this could be overwhelming. Yes, it fucking can. You can overwhelm yourself with a fucking cockroach, for heaven's sakes. Think about that. Little tiny cockroach. Big fucking giant guy. He's going, ay, 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 ay. You know, better he says, fuck you, cockroach. You know, it's not like the miracle cure of the century. When you say, how can you do it faster? Well, it depends upon what kind of fear it is. But if your fear is spun around in the opposite direction, it's not going to be fear. It's going to be something else. So as long as it's going to be something else, then I'm going to start putting in the things that I want. You can't maintain feelings unless you maintain them. So if you do the opposite, then things will work out. Don't make a bunch of pictures and pull them into one thing. Make one really good picture. In fact, make one really good movie, right? And then make sure you can see how the whole thing works. I try things out on myself to find out if they'll work. That's how I know they work. I go first. And if you're waiting for the rest of the world to make it easy for you, I got news for you. You're going to be around for a long time living at your parents' house. It's a lot better to have your own house, trust me. It's really hard to bring girls home to your parents' house, you know. You go, gee, Mom, this is my date. Can I borrow the car? You know, the hell with that kind of crap. And if you have a job you don't enjoy, you just have to make it so that you enjoy it until you find something even more exciting. You know, everybody needs to have an income. You know, some people can get it from relatives, but typically I find that's more work than actually making your own money. Going in and going, Dad, can I have more money? And they go, you're 30 years old. You know, what you have to do is learn to hypnotize them. You go, Dad, sit in the chair. Close your eyes. Once again, it's time for me to speak with you unconsciously. Now, you could have mailed me a check already. And I'm not going to get angry about that. So, you know, you can always find investors if you have good ideas. But if you're sitting around giving yourself so much shit that you feel bad about, then probably these ideas are worth reconsidering. You know, because if they seem like a good idea when you feel like crap, give yourself a little time to think up some others. Remember, it's always best to have a selection. The more things you learn about, the more things you know about. The wise thing you did is that you went, I have to know about these things. Because a lot of people don't bother with that step. You know, I know people who tried to open businesses they didn't know anything about, like restaurants, right? And you have to know a lot about the restaurant business. You know, like, you know, he didn't figure that it was going to be a problem. He said, well, I've ate in 1,000 restaurants. That doesn't teach you nothing about cooking. Right, because he found out how expensive it was to get a chef. So he goes, well, I'll cook myself. Great. So now you get to run all the business and work in a hot, sticky kitchen all night long. Not to mention the fact he didn't know how to cook nothing. He said, I can learn easily. So I got a cookbook. Right? And of course, cookbooks are as vague as anything I've ever read in my life. My first experience with a cookbook, I was a teenager, and I decided to make my own taffy. So I got all the stuff, I mixed it up just like I'd said. I cooked it in the pan just like it said. And then it said, open the oven door, set the pan down, and stretch the taffy out. It didn't say nothing about turning the oven on. So I sat there, and the more I did this, the more it turned into cement, right? Because it didn't cool off slowly, it cooled off quickly. So I ended up with a pan full of white cement. And then when I told somebody about it, and they said, well, you know, did you have the oven too low? And I said, the oven's always been the same height. And they said, no, what temperature was the oven? I said, they didn't say to turn the oven on. And they said, well, you're supposed to stretch it so it doesn't cool and the oven should be on. Everybody knows that. Well, everybody who knows that is not going to buy a cookbook about it. So these people left off what I consider to be important details. Here's one of my favorite lines out of cookbooks. Season to taste. Well, you know, I like the taste of barbecue sauce, right? So what am I going to do? Make everything taste? Here's a barbecue sauce souffle. Yuck. I mean, there are some things you must develop a taste for, like caviar. Caviar is not something that little kids eat the first time and go, ooh, this is good. And, you know, when you're young, the time you grow up, lots of things taste good. I mean, I used to eat things when I was a kid that I thought eating them now gives me the willies. Of course, I used to drink things when I was in my 20s that if I tried to drink now, I'd just die. I don't know how I got those things in. I used to drink gin in a mug. It's a big mug, put some ice in it, and pour half a bottle of gin in it, and just knock it back. And, you know, it didn't really affect me much at all. But having not drank in years, now I can have a little tiny shot of something, just this much, right? And it just, as it heads towards my mouth, I start feeling drunk. The alcohol goes across my tongue, and just a little of it seeps in my system, and I get wildly, I start thinking, because I used to drink and get in fights, and now I have just a pinch of alcohol, so I was making a rum cake, and I put the rum inside the cake like that, and I licked the spoon, right? And the doorbell rang, and I opened the doorbell and punched the person behind it, and I went, yee-haw! Like that. The guy went, what's wrong? And I said, fuck you, buddy. And he said, so what do you want? And he said, well, my name is Detective so-and-so, and I'm looking for this address. I said, it's not this address. Now get up off the ground and get out of here. And he said, well, you struck a policeman. I said, you weren't a policeman. You didn't identify yourself. So therefore, it doesn't count. Get out of here. And he said, do you hit everybody that comes to your door? And I said, I could do that, yeah. Is there some more people out there that want to come in? And he said, are you drunk? And I said, yes. And he said, how much have you had to drink? And I said, almost a teaspoon. And he looked at me and he went, are you under any kind of the care of a psychiatrist or a psychologist? And I said, no, but I love to eat the motherfuckers for breakfast. I had a school psychologist call me into the school and tell me that my son was hyperactive. So I went down and I went in like this. And I went, so what do you want? And he went, well, we believe that your son has hyperactivity. And I went, where would he get something like that? How do you catch that? Do you catch that from other kids? I don't understand. What's the problem? Problem. He seems like a bright kid. Everything's fine. But whatever the problem? Where did you get this from? Answer me when I talk to you. Answer me. Should have seen the look on her face. She was like... And she said, well, we were hoping we could get your permission to give him Ritalin. I went, you're selling drugs? You want to give my son drugs? You should be in jail. Drug dealers should go to jail. I said, what is this Ritalin stuff? Ritalin. I said it like that, and she pulled out a PDR, and I grabbed it out of her hand and opened it up. And I read it, and I said, look at this. I said, this Ritalin takes children and relaxes them, but adults, it responds to normal people as if it's speed. It's a stimulant. So you take the fucking stuff and keep up with him. After all, it's not harmful to your health. Giving kids drugs, I think that's totally nuts. Anyway, after that, my son looked really relaxing to her. Actually, he's a really kicked back guy. He just doesn't take shit from anybody. He got in trouble, and they called me up and they said that he was in the principal's office. And I said, what did he do? And he said he was insubordinate. And I said, what did he do? And he said, well, we told him he had to come to the front of the class. And he said, no. He said he didn't want to. And I said, okay. I said, I must be missing something here. I said, what country is this? And they said, well, this is the United States of America. I said, oh, it's the free country, isn't it? I said, if he doesn't want to go up in the front of the class, and he says, no. I said, well, what do you mean? You can do that. He's entitled to freedom of choice. And he said, well, they have to, the school rules say. I said, the school rules talk? I said, have you seen a psychiatrist lately? And he said, you shouldn't be sarcastic. And I said, I'm not sarcastic. I said, I'm just trying to save your fucking life. And he said, what? And I said, because you're going to ask me to come down there. And you don't want to do that. He said, to begin with, you called me at 8 o'clock in the fucking morning. Right? And I said, and now you've taken my son out of class because he wouldn't do everything that somebody said. If the teacher told him, suck my dick, my son will say no too. I said, so what kind of perversion is going on there? Why does this teacher want to order children around? What the fuck is going on? This sounds really perverted. What is he, some kind of pedophile? And he went, pedophile? I said, I'm calling the newspapers right now, and saying that you're trying to get my son to go along and do everything that pedophiles say. What the hell are you trying to teach our children, you motherfucker? Are you a pedophile too? I'm telling on you. I'm telling everybody. I'm calling the newspaper. I'm calling them now. As we speak, I'm dialing on the other line. Your life is over. Now, do you want me to come down to the school? And he said, no. He said, no, newspapers, please. And I said, okay. I said, send my son back to class and tell the teacher if he fucks with my kid at all. I said, everybody in the world's going to find out what he did. And if he touches him, I'm holding you responsible. And he said, "Oh, me?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "You know what I do for a living? I operate a nail gun." He said, "A nail gun?" I said, "Have you ever seen one of these hydraulic guns? They fill it full of air and it shoots nails into the fucking floor, holds boards to the concrete?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, they go through skin really easy." I said, "You know what happened to Jesus, you know? Think about it. I'll crucify your fucking ass so fast." And the newspaper will be going, "Is this the pedophile hanging here on the wall?" I said, "And the first thing I'm going to nail to the wall is your penis. And I'll let you hang from it for a while, and then I'll nail the rest of you down." I said, "Am I clear about this?" I said, "You're not going to be insubordinate, are you?" And he went, "No, sir." And I said, "Good." I said, "Because if you mess with my son, I'll get really angry." I said, "Because I don't believe that you guys should be able to order my son around and do anything you want. Teach him. You are school teachers. Don't complain about stupid shit." And I said, "By the way, I want to talk to the teacher before I go to the supervisors of schools and talk about this pedophile thing." And he went, so the teacher called me in about 20 minutes, and he was a pompous fucking ass. He went like this, and he goes, "Well," he said, "I heard there's some kind of a problem." And I said, "Okay, you pedophile." And he goes, "I am not a pedophile." And I said, "Look, aren't you ordering kids around?" I said, "Isn't the problem you said he was insubordinate? That sounds to me like either you were in the military for too many fucking years, so you think you can order anybody around." And he said, "Well, I was in the military." And I said, "Yes, Colonel." And he went, "How did you know I was a colonel?" And I said, "Because only colonels talk like that." Now, I said, let's remind you, you are out of the military. My son is not in the military. He's in elementary school. I said, "Is that clear?" And he went, I said, "By the way, I'm with the military." I said, "I work for people that you don't want to meet." And I do. So I figure I have about the best backup you could possibly have. That's why I'm going to send you home with an imaginary friend. I have people who work for me, too. Well, they're not really people, but they're close. Because I want to make sure you do the right thing. I don't want you to just go back and slide into your normal life. I want you to realize that real magic abides everywhere. And that the real magic is your ability to understand and to adjust your behavior. That if change can happen for you in 5 minutes, imagine the change that can happen with the whole rest of your life. Because it's not just me that knows how to do this. I know how to do it with a little humor and entertain you. Now that you've watched it, now that you've seen other people go through it, you know unconsciously, just like you didn't know how to speak language, but you watched people doing it, you listened to it, and suddenly you could do it. Well, suddenly you're going to find that each and every one of you has something inside your mind that you didn't know how it got there. Just like you didn't know how you learned to speak language, you're going to find that you're really intolerant of bullshit, especially your own. It's going to seem really, really boring. It's going to be like waiting in line to get into fucking purgatory for one whole millennium. And when you get there, they go, "I'm sorry, this is the wrong gate. You should be in the gate with the long line." So you have to walk over. It's just like the Department of Motor Vehicles, isn't it? You walk over and you stand in the other line, and another millennium goes by, and another millennium goes by. You get to the front, and they go, "Who told you it's this gate? You should be back in the other gate." And you tell them I said so. Then another millennium goes by. And the whole time you're thinking, I wouldn't have to go through these long lines if I'd have just lived a good life. And it's so easy. You all know what the right thing to do is. You know it's not the right thing to confuse yourself and to time pressure yourself. You spend so much fucking time making lists, you can't get anywhere on time. Right? And then you go, I could leave at 9, I could leave at 10, I could leave at 10:30, I could leave at 11, I could leave at 12, 1, 9. We'll put them all into one big number. It's go, dot. You know? I mean, come on. You know, if you're confusing yourself, it's easy. You just fucking stop it. And then you start thinking, what's going to work to get me where I need to go on time? So you simply say, wouldn't it be nice to be there ahead of time and in comfort? Because otherwise you're going to no more stress. Because that's what takes you into the bad places. And you see, if something inside you goes, no more stress, because you'll know a lot more stress if you keep this up. On the other hand, if you straighten your head up a little bit, quit leaning on your fucking elbows, you won't end up with all those pains you had, right? Saying, when you look down and you see your fucking elbows on your knees, I want something inside you to kick you right in the balls, right? And go, fuck that. Because you know what will happen is you'll cut those nerves off in your lower spine, then you'll end up with her fucking wheelchair, right? And you'll be rolling around like this, and women will come up and go, if only you weren't a quadriplegic, I'd love to make love to you. But nothing will work anymore, right? And you'll say, oh my God, and you'll make pictures of 6 different love positions and switch them into one. And then what will happen is a horse will look at you and heat. It'll back up to the wheelchair. It's a great ambiguity if you guys knew what I was doing. Because the more you don't do this, the more you won't. That's true about everything. And you guys got to remember to breathe. I've never worked with a group that breathed less than you. You guys left all the oxygen in the room, right? There's plenty more of that where it came from, and the plants will take care of the rest. It's okay. If you breathe deeper, you'll find that everything makes much more sense. Because you have to remember, that's what keeps you alive. Breathing, every once in a while you have to eat, drink a little water, and urinate and shit now and then. Those are the essentials, And then it makes a lot of sense if you make sure that what you eat isn't the shit. Because I'll tell you, there's some really bad food, and this country's got a real market on it. Right? It used to be you couldn't get anything good to eat now, but now there's lots of restaurants which are really pretty good. And when you cook your own food, remember, that's what this thing is for. You open a package, smell what's in it. If there's something wrong with it, you'll go, don't eat things that your nose tells you are bad for you. Not even to be polite to your fucking relatives. Right? Because then you'll end up 3 hours later going, I have a stomach ache, I don't know, gas, And, everybody I've ever worked with who had stomach problems, all I did was say, when food comes up, as it passes under your nose, inhale, because it adjusts your metabolism so you can digest it. Or else it tells you, warning, 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 warning. Now, the other thing is to make sure your immune system gets stronger and that you get some of what this lady has, raw, unadulterated tenacity. If you spend 6 years from not being able to move anything in your body to being able to get up and walk and look as good as she does, putting on her running shoes, that's cool, I like that. I'm going to be telling my wife all about that. I go, where are your running shoes, dear? And she goes, I have 17 pairs. She's never been running once in her life. But she has them in all colors. She even has leopard skin ones. So I'm sure she'll be prepared, because to me, the kind of tenacity that you showed is the kind where you really should go inside and not be afraid, because you have something that all human beings need to develop, which is utter determination. And I'm going to teach you the trick of determination. These points right here underneath your eyes, if you just focus your attention right here, suddenly you'll begin to feel very determined. Just by moving your consciousness to those points. So if you want to be determined to make sure that you find new ways of organizing yourself, when you think about organizing yourself, focus your attention right there. When you want to be more creative, okay, it's really simple. You know where the window is, and when you think about the times you're going to be creative, be determined to make sure you use the window of opportunity. And you know what I'm going to say to you, I've already have, You already are sitting there smiling, feeling good, but breathe for Christ's fucking sake, will you? The more you breathe and loosen up, you don't have to get stiff again. You don't have to go out and criticize yourself again. If you go home and start self-loathing, think of all the other people you could loathe now. Right? Just turn on the fucking TV, get one of those voice stress analyzers and put it on the top and turn on the news. Right? CNN, that interview guy that's on CNN all the time. I love watching these people talk on that show, only because I have a lie detector on the top of the TV and it makes it so much more entertaining. Right? Because every time they start to talk, some of these people, Al Gore, I've never seen the thing go red so much in my fucking life. Right? He goes like, clears his throat. He goes, and he goes, why? some of the things. Have you ever seen infomercials? Oh, God, you have a lie detector on those things. They're so much fun. There used to be a guy that sold some kind of real estate package. He was an Oriental guy, and he was on a big boat, and he had 6 women. And he was, you too can be very rich, wealthy people. Lots of women, big boat, lots of houses. All that stuff was rented. I know a guy who filmed that. They rented it. He even rented his wife. Isn't that something? These people will lie to you. You have to be wary of the liars. There are bullshit artists out there. Let that internal device that tells you, because you know who's telling you the truth, whether they do it metaphorically or not. The truth is, it feels better to feel good than it does to feel bad. And when you're feeling good, you make better decisions, you organize yourself better, you'll be able to be quicker doing the things you want to do, you'll clean out your fucking closets and get rid of all the extra fucking junk that you don't fucking need. And you won't be afraid of little insects. Fuck you. You know, you can will mosquitoes so they won't bite you. I do it. I go to places and everybody's like spraying bug spray all over them, and I look at them and go, like this, I go, okay, you will not come near me. Bite them, bite them. Every once in a while, somebody screws it up. Dom, who's an NLP trainer, came with me to Minnesota, and we went to an Indian reservation, and there was smoke everywhere, and the Indians were dancing around, and it was it wasn't open to the public. It was a powwow, and there were Indians from all over the country, hundreds of them dancing in beautiful costumes, and the smoke was going up, and it was a sunny day, and we were walking around, and people had the crafts they had made and stuff, and it was just really totally great. But it's on a lake called Rice Lake. It might have been called Larva Lake. And there are fucking mosquitoes everywhere, but they're not bothering us at all. We walked all the way around the place, and suddenly Dom turns around and he goes, Richard, he goes, with all these mosquitoes all around, how come they're not biting us? And they went, and they landed all over us and began biting us. We actually had to leave. Ever since then, I've tortured Dom about that. I said, it's because I built a shield around us so that it wouldn't do that. I said, I built a shield out of energy, and you penetrated it and busted it up. And suddenly the mosquitoes were all over us. I said, you have to think of what you want, not what you don't want. Gee, I'm so happy that I'm not being bit by mosquitoes. You think the mosquitoes can't hear that stuff? They can hear it. They go, hey, all right, so you think you're tough, man. And down they come. But you don't want to be afraid of that stuff. They find out, they'll tell all the other cockroaches and mice, they'll be all over the place. He's afraid of us, let's all move in. You have to be, on the other hand, you have to realize you can always outsmart these things. All you have to do is study psychology. They know more about rats than anybody. They will tell you how to make the rats inside your house schizophrenic. Right, you go out and you put a thing, they touch it and food comes out, and they touch it and food comes out. Then electrify it so they touch it and food doesn't come out. They just get electrocuted like that, because electric shock treatment. And then the rats will go in and they go, wow, electric shock treatment. Everything's clear to me. Man, I don't feel depressed anymore. I don't need to overeat. Man, thank you so much. You've been a help. See, nonsense is always nonsense. So I want you to take a deep breath, put your feet on the floor. Okay? Breathe in through your nose. Make it a short, sharp breath. And then let it out slowly. Because this time we're going deep diving. See, because the moment that you start to go into a trance and close your eyes, that's right. That's right. It's easy. Just let yourself fall deep inside and trust your unconscious. The part of you that's been close enough to hear and to respond. Feel the corners of your mouth start to turn up into a little smile. We're not going into depressing trance land. We're going into happy trance land. Because that's the land I want you to live in. Your unconscious knew how to make you feel bad, and you practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. You sat in positions till your body hurt. You did all kinds of goofy stuff. But now the mantra, stop it, stop it, stop it. And start, more importantly, to breathe in through your nose, and this time let your consciousness come right down. And what I want you to do is to feel your own midline right down the front, up and down. And then on the right-hand side of you, I want you to spin a wheel. Take a nice red wheel and start to spin it on your solar plexus and put some energy right down the midline. The other side, put a green one, spin it and put it down. And then below those two, have two more spinning the opposite way, also towards the midline. Put a nice yellow one and a nice red one on the other side. Let the four things spin, right? If you're looking at them on the outside, pull them in so they're in your body so you can feel those colors spinning inside of you. Feel your midline charging up. Breathe in through your nose, and then you'll feel a gold light starting to shine from the inside of you. Because that gold light can spread through the rest of your life. Because as long as you lived, you will have been touched by the things I said and the things I've done. Everything touches you, but this is a choice that I'm letting you make for the rest of your life. Don't wait to be happy, just fucking do it. Nothing on the outside is going to do it. You have to start on the inside. Stay like Peter Pan. Keep those wheels spinning and put some of that golden light on the inside. Then take a deep breath and start at the back of your spine and let a little blue light go up one vertebrae at a time. It's time to supercharge yourself and to build a better trance than you've had before. Because the more you begin to take advantage of what's there in the universe, because you're a part of it and a part of it at the same time, you can feel outside of it and feel lonely and alienated and become an existentialism, which surely leads to Marxism, which surely leads to depression, which surely leads to a feeling of uselessness, helplessness. And then you can move to Berkeley, California and feel at home. But you see, the people in Berkeley sitting around going, life is meaningless. Hand me the copy of Sartre, And then after all, then they fall in and they get a little Nietzsche and they go, we are all Supermen. We can do whatever we want, but nothing is worth doing. And they go up and back and forth and all around. You see, this time as the wheels spin round and round and round, all four of them, whether you see them or not, are still spinning, pouring a golden light inside you that's going to begin to spread. Curl your toes back. Let yourself smile from the feet all the way up. So your smile runs through your whole body. It's the surface of your skin is where it really begins, because that good feeling's going to begin to spin. Round and round and round it goes, dispelling your problems and letting them flow. From here to there and there to here, you let the good feeling spin around till you realize it's as real can be. And really then you'll know that if you let this feeling continue to grow, as you drop down into a deeper state of bliss and peacefulness, if you begin inside your mind to do the mantra that works this time, simply inside yourself say, ah. Then try it on the outside. Go, ah. And then say, ee. Then say, I. And then you get to go, whoa. Then you get to go, woo. And you let it tremble on the surface of your skin, then let that good feeling just seep right in. Because surely as long as you're here, you may realize it's nothing but a spell. The spell that's upon you and around you this time is the good feeling that you made for yourself in a moment this time. Let it tingle, let it shine. Let the light seep inside of your mind. Not just the tip of your toes and the end of your nose. Realize your own health and your own future depends upon your beliefs. So believe me, whether or not, believe yourself a lot. Since you're going to believe yourself, the one thing I want you to do is to look in the future so you begin to see it get brighter and more fun and more pleasant. Put in your future the healing that you need. You see, if all of these feelings that people had, this gentleman told me his shoulder had hurt for 30 fucking years. He'd been to doctors and everybody, and he'd learned to live with his pain. Well, I'll tell you, that's completely insane. Never live with anything any longer than you need to. He tried to find things, but he didn't look hard and deep enough and in the right places. Because the way to make the pain go away was to be able to take the pleasure you're capable of feeling and aiming it right there. All I did was soften some tissue and make a few suggestions. And one of the suggestions was just simply believe in your own magic, and magic you'll find. The magic that makes all that spontaneous happen in time. She spontaneously had remission. Doctors hate that. They go, I don't know why you got better, you just did. That's like when they come in and they tell you when you're in deep pain. They say, well, you look fine to us. We can't find one thing wrong. But yet you know that's really the wrong song. You have to keep looking. You have to go to different places. You find a homeopathist, you find a Feldenkrais practitioner. And then you find out whether they're any good at what they do. Because just like everything else, some hypnotists couldn't put people in a trance if their fucking life depended on it. I saw one who worked, and I laughed so hard I almost died. This guy told people as he had a 20-foot hypnoid spinning around that he wanted them to relax and that he was going to control their mind and that they were to go deeper and deeper asleep. And I stood up and I said, well, Wilbur, I don't feel sleepy. Because to me, it's not being sleepy. It's that sleep and trance are different. There's many altered states, and trance is just a state of consciousness from which you can move into any state that you want to. You see, I came from the United States, and you don't want to unite these states because they just fight with each other and confuse each other. You want to keep the states separate so that you always have certain things that hold them together. The fact that your own future, you believe you're going to find more magic. When you look into the future, you're going to realize that you've done some healing this weekend, and not just your shoulders and your toes and the end of your nose. Real healing starts by believing. Because inside all the beliefs that you have now is the word lie. Remember, it's B-E-L-I-E. And then you get an F in whatever it is. But you see, it's not beliefs, it's believing. Because if you believe inside yourself and make beliefs that say things are going to happen easily, things are going to happen quickly, and then begin from the belief to see the steps you need to take and just do it. You see, it's not that you snarl by thinking about it. It should just happen. And when you do, it opens up the hormones that are inside of you. And you will discover you have most grandes huevos, señor. And this is just a metaphor. This means very large balls, by the way. But you see, whether or not you're a man or a woman, you have to have them in your attitude. Your attitude needs to get bold. And you see, if you waste the time and wait till you get old, then you'll live in regret. And you don't want to live and look back and go, oh, it could have been so wonderful. You want to look forward and say that. And say, the world is my smorgasbord. You're going to have the chance to try different things, and some of them you won't like, so just ignore them. If there are people that are different than you and believe in things that you don't think are true, that's okay. It doesn't hurt you to understand and to appreciate them and just be glad that it's not you. There's different religions. There are different schools of psychology. What always amazed me when I studied psychology in the beginning 30 years ago is every school of psychotherapy was fighting and saying it was the right approach, but yet none of them could help their clients. How can you fight over which thing is the right thing when none of them work? What doesn't work doesn't work. And it's as simple as that. So take a deep breath and simply drift down inside. Really relax this time and let the other mind, not that mind, the other mind, simply float forward, because it's been nice enough here with me to begin to let you change in a way that I can actually see. When you look in the mirror when you leave this room, take a moment and look at yourself. You won't look the same, and that's because you're not. Because now you have the choice of making a new choice and changing your lot. Because as you go into your future day by day, between each day there's going to be a night. But yet a day and a night is still just a day. And they'll pass by, and each one is still an opportunity to see that delight is at the end of the tunnel and all the way through. If you move into delight and then think of what to do, delightful things will come to you. And the more delightful things you think that you can do, and the more wonderful things, and the more you put a smile on the face around you, and the more you begin to vibrate and resonate with hope. And instead of thinking that you'll get through the struggle, think there has to be an easier way, and it starts inside your mind, and it starts with determination. 2 points you know how to find. And when you find the point of determination and become determined that your life is going to be one of the things that shines bright, because the glow that you started inside yourself tonight is a light that can't be extinguished for the rest of your life. If you turn and you smile even more each time, you're going to find that something's changing inside of your mind. The changing thoughts, the colors of your thoughts, the places of pictures and which things you're willing to look at, and the things you're willing to say to yourself and the way you say it to them. Because you should be proud of yourself. The fact that you could sit through 3 days of this, I think, is a miracle in and of itself. I'm not the politest person on the face of the earth. I've looked at the things that you said to me, and I've been honest. I've said, what a crock of fucking shit. Stop it. Because it's hard sometimes to think about your own mind because you're thinking at the time. So it always helps every once in a while to stop and to have some kind of reflection. But you've always got the guide of, does it feel good? Now, when things feel bad and you do them and they feel worse, and then you do them and they feel even worse, stop banging your lives against the wall. It doesn't have to be. There's a door you just have to look for. And if you let your mind begin to look for solutions and look for easy ways and look for delight and look for fun and look for success, you're going to find that there are all kinds of things that you can do this time. Just answer the fucking thing, will you? It's okay. We all know it's yours. But it doesn't matter, nothing will change except your ability to remain the same. Because if you always set a direction where you're going to feel good, then you're always going to feel good and better and better. Things will get easier, things will be quicker, and yet each night, if you happen to sleep, when you drop into that unconscious hypnagogic state, and things start to relax, and you start to let your mind drift into thoughts of here and there, your unconscious mind, I want to prepare. So that what you begin to do in the back of your mind is to listen to the words you've heard this time. And the words are going to begin to spin things in a new direction, so that even the difficulties that you didn't bring up here are going to begin to turn around, because your unconscious mind has heard these things and they've seen them happen. They've watched pain from 30 years disappear. And the only reason that I do such things, that I make the phobia go away quicker and quicker and quicker each time, that I go, Jesus, 15 minutes, it's just too much time. But you see, inside at the back of your mind, while you drift off to sleep, deeper and deeper still, because there's something that's worth hearing. I want you to repeat inside your mind the process itself of taking the unpleasantness inside your mind, starting at the end and running the memories backwards, time and time. The things that you do through the course of each day, well, if you weren't happy with them, run them backwards so the feelings disappear. Because any memory you start at the end and you run it real quickly, people walk backwards and talk backwards. And then after you do that, when you think about it, it won't matter. Because the best thing about the past is that it's over. Because it means that the future can be brighter, and you can then lay the foundation for new habits, new fetishes, new thoughts. Well, it is England. I have to throw it in. And then you can teach a new song to your neurology, the one you wanted to sing. So I'm telling your unconscious mind on this night that it's only the beginning of the rest of your life. And you will vibrate in a new way. A new song will be inside you. You'll find yourself singing. It'll only be your nervous system ringing and ringing. because something inside you is going to vibrate with a little bit more pleasure than you had when you showed up the first day, gritting your teeth and sneering and chattering away inside your head and outside and around, flicking pictures of crappy things inside of your mind. When I asked you what you wish for, you kept telling me what you didn't want. Well, the more you don't want it, the less you think about it, the more you won't. So this time, and for the rest of your life, each time that you're unconscious aims and re-aims you towards delight, as it, while you sleep peacefully, or whether you dream, or whether you toss and turn, it doesn't matter to me. But your unconscious in the back of your mind will run backwards the things that you don't need any more times. And suddenly you'll sleep deeper and deeper and deeper still. And something inside you is going to leak peacefulness. And you're going to lower your eyebrows a bit and just relax. And you're going to stop thinking about your stress and forget about it. Make it in the past. And look in the future and realize if you're one of the smiling, cheerful people, you'll always have opportunities. It's those of us that live in delight that find avenues to be successful in spite of all the opposition that the world presents. You can't do that. You don't have the proper degrees. You haven't got the previous experience. And if you look at them and you breathe at the same rate, and you go into the delight that you're able to create, the more you feel good, the better they'll feel around you, the more likely they are to offer the opportunities to you. I offer the opportunity to each of you to heal yourself in every way. And if you did bad things, I forgive you, so you should too. And I want your consciousness to make sure that you do. So while you sleep deep, deep, deep and deeper still, I want you to let yourself find some of the thrill. It's not that life is something that you really have noticed much of. Before you found out about NLP, you didn't know about accessing cues. It was always there. So there's so many more things that you haven't seen. Let your beliefs open wide. And when it's bullshit, then just simply forget. But when you find there's magic and pleasure and delight, then you can move through it whether it's day or whether it's night. It's only through the dark light that you simply find the power inside to really glow up and be the kind of person you can be. So the more you glow up, the more you'll glisten to what I have to say and begin to shine forth in each and every day. So not just when you wake from this trance, but when you wake each time in the day, in the afternoon, from a nap, or from a dream, or from what seems real, remember underneath it's just smoke and mirrors with no smoke and mirrors. We've been inside the particle, and it looked at us and said, there are no rules, including that one. Life is paradoxical by nature, and that's not bad and stressful. That's good. It means there's always more we don't know about. So the more we know and the more we see and the more we hear, the more we're free. And the more freedom you find, the better off you are all of the time. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes, but not till your unconsciousness does something I want you to find deep down inside yourself. And this is so important. If you start at the bottom of your feet and you one more time just repeat, curling your toes back, and this time find a great smile and let it come up your skin and all the way up to the top of your head, and find the beam and bring the light in. Because it's only by believing in the magic that you find magic. It doesn't happen that you see magic and then you believe in it. It's the other way around. If you realize that spontaneous remission is a miracle, and miracles happen all the time, but only when people open themselves up to them are they able to find. And I don't care if they're done by angels or where they come from the earth or whether they come from Safeway. It doesn't make a fucking difference to me. As long as you open your mind up, they'll be there. There's so much knowledge in so many books, in so many movies, and listening to people talk. There's a wonderful universe, and we live in it in one of the best times. If we were living 100 years ago, they'd have burned my ass at the stake.
We would have said it's witchcraft. Kill his ass. He's going around making people feel good for no reason. It must be bad. Repent, repent. Tell us it's a sin.
Well, in Irish, the word sin doesn't mean the same thing. Now, to me, when I went to India and all of the Hindus came up to me at the end of the seminar and they said, "Oh, Dr. Bandler, will you bless me?" And I said, "You didn't sneeze." They didn't get it because they didn't know what I mean. So I just put my hand on my head and I said, "Go forth and sin." Because if you find the thing that's deep within and you let it glow out, then surely you'll find that this time when you open your eyes, you're going to come all the way out. And the more you see, the more you'll be free, the more you'll be safe, and the healthier you'll be. And your unconscious is going to do this again and again for the rest of your life, till you realize you've always been living in the opportunity for delight. And that's all I have to say. My 3 days is over. I have nothing else to say except goodbye. Have a many nice days.